And we're live. Welcome back to another episode on the Windsor Wednesday show. I'm so excited to kick off today's show and share with you the guests that are joining us. We have Paige Brown, a third-year biological sciences student and president of the Biology Students Union, also an Outstanding Scholars Research Assistant and the social media executive for LEAD. So she's down below in the bottom left. Up top, we have Mike Houston, Director of Accessibility Services, former Director of the ISC, former head of the domestic recruitment, and also a former assistant dean of the Odette School of Business. And down below, we have an alumnus joining us, Jayme Lesperance. He currently is an assistant crown attorney for the Ministry of the Attorney General, is a graduate of the MBA class of 2009 and a JD graduate for the class of 2013. So for the guests, thank you for joining, and those watching, thanks for tuning in for another episode. To kick things off, we'll start with Paige. Paige, we talked a little bit about you being an Outstanding Scholars Research student, but what types of research are you currently working on? And really, what skills have you gained from that research? Oh, Paige, you are on mute, I believe. There we go.
No, it's okay. So I work in Dr. Philip Karpovich's lab. So he's actually a professor in the Department of Biomedical Sciences, and we focus on circadian biology and stem cell biology in our lab. So what that essentially means is we're looking at how time of day affects cell regeneration and how our cells kind of repair and renew themselves. So it's really interesting stuff. We specifically focus on the intestine. So this plays a role in diseases such as, inflammatory bowel disease or colitis and Crohn's, and colorectal cancer. So pretty big implications for our work. Right now I'm working on a fruit fly model and looking at different cell signaling pathways in the fruit fly. So really interesting stuff for me, at least, being a biology student. But yeah, some of the skills that I've taken away that are really big is, I think, critical thinking. Being able to work in a lab through this Outstanding Scholars Program has kind of allowed me to use the skills I've learned in class and then apply them in this application-based real-life setting. I think communication, I'm always collaborating with the rest of our team. We have a team of about 15 different people in our lab. So I work with my PI and a PhD student to do my work. Again, like I said, teamwork is a big thing. And yeah, just those critical thinking skills. And I think the application, being able to apply what you've learned in a class, is the biggest thing with research. And I would highly encourage anybody, whether they're an outstanding scholar or not, to get involved in research. So.
That's awesome, Paige. And have you been able to get back in the lab during COVID, or how has that really changed for you?
A little bit. So I actually was awarded a NSERC Undergraduate Student Research Award this past summer, and with COVID, I was unable to get into labs. So I worked on a fully remote project doing genomics online, which was actually really interesting, and I got to learn a lot. In the fall semester, I was able to get back in a little bit into on campus, but lately with the new lockdown, I've been working from home. So it's been a little bit of a shift, but again, always a learning experience.
Yes, and congratulations on your award as well. Hopefully you can get back in the lab at the university very, very soon.
For sure.
Moving to our next guest, Mike, let's talk a little bit about your responsibilities as Director of Accessibility Services at the University of Windsor. And also, what would you say would be the most favorite part of your job, Mike?
Okay. Well, I have to just say, to begin with, a real challenge following what Paige had to say. I'm not working in a lab. I'm doing some amazing stuff with cells. But my current position, I oversee two student service areas. One is student accessibility services, and one is academic advising. So student accessibility services provides accommodations for students with disabilities as it relates to their academic work on campus. And that can range from exam accommodations, mobility accommodations, audio accommodations, setting up sign language interpreters. So I would say generally it is a busy office, whether we're on campus or not. And then in academic advising, my area is central academic advising, and we only do advising for undergraduate students. Any graduate students should obviously be seeing their graduate coordinators for that. If I think about what my favorite thing about working probably at the university. I do volunteer, or I have for almost 30 years now, working at all of the convocations for the university. And it still actually is very, very exciting when convocation starts. And if I'm a stage marshal and I see students who I know who are crossing stage, or I'm hearing about students and their achievements as they're crossing stage, that really is the highlight every semester of my job. It's just incredible seeing the successes, and I guess I'm going to look forward to seeing Paige's when she completes her degree.
Yes, and Mike, you talked a little bit about your role having involvement with academic advising. What have you noticed since the pandemic started? Ways that you've had to shift your academic advising towards students?
Okay, so I think like many offices on campus, or students, faculty, or staff, we all had a very quick adjustment. Um, some a little bit quicker than others. We did have to change how we do advising, because our academic advisors would generally, the way that we advise is a little bit different in central advising. We allow students to log in to their UWindsor account, and then we would, and based on the view that the student has, we couldn't do that in the online format. So we're using views into UWindsor, and we're advising either through email. There's a significant increase in the email advising that we do. We also use Teams to meet up with students. So we set up appointments, and generally the advisors, right now, it's probably around 25 students that they're working with per day, but it can go up to about 70 for the 3 advisors. Every afternoon, Monday through Friday, from 2 till 4, we also have an online, I guess we call it a walk-in, and we would have had walk-in in person on campus, but now they would log into a chat room through Blackboard, and they can ask their questions in there. If they're very private, we would just move people into a special room within Blackboard. But generally, I would say students easily transferred to the online system with us, and it's worked really well.
That's awesome. Have you found that more students are being receptive to virtual types of meetings and academic advising? Has it increased at all?
I think it's been steady. We still have some students that their preference is a phone call because they can't do it in person. But I would say there's probably 80% of students who are very, very happy using a remote tool such as Teams or Blackboard.
That's incredible. That's great. And those students that are watching, Mike does lead director. He's a director of accessibility services that deals with accessibility and also academic advising. So if you're looking for that advice throughout your academics in your undergrad or post-grad, definitely recommend checking that out, like Mike just mentioned there. So I appreciate those thoughts, Mike. To our alumnus on today's show, Jayme, let's talk about your role, because it's very, I would say, prestigious. It's working for the government. It's a role not many have. Let's talk about this. What is a ministry assistant crown attorney to the Ministry of the Attorney General specifically do? I bet you a lot of students in law would be interested in learning more.
Well, thank you for that introduction. More than calling the job prestigious, I would simply say that it's important because of the role that we play. A assistant crown attorney is the title given to all employees for the Ministry of the Attorney General who act in what we simply call as a prosecutor role. So all of the offenses from simple theft to first-degree murder are the responsibility of an assistant crown attorney. Each office has one crown attorney, which is usually more of a management role. In some of the offices, they do conduct trial work as well, but that's the title difference. The crown attorney is basically the manager of the office for all the assistant crown attorneys. Our office has 24 assistant crown attorneys. One of them just recently retired and now is teaching at the University of Windsor Law, the Brian Manarin. So we just lost him recently back to the university. So our office, as I said, handles all of the prosecutions in our region. So that includes Windsor all the way to Chatham and Sarnia being the next offices. So Leamington, Tecumseh, LaSalle, all of the surrounding neighborhoods still fall under the jurisdiction of our office. So our role, again, is to act as the prosecutor in the case. So we're not lawyer for the aggrieved or injured or complainant party. We act on behalf of society. So that's one of the twists to our job, which can sometimes be rewarding, can also be quite frustrating when we're explaining to people that, well, we always take their wants or desires or needs in mind. It's one factor, not the driving factor for how to treat any given prosecution. So that generally is my role. There are so many offenses under the criminal code. That's why I just say it's as simple from theft all the way to first-degree murder, which I've had a few of those too already.
That's awesome, Jayme. And I think many students that are interested in law or being involved in a field similar to yours in the government, they're probably interested. What would you say would be the most rewarding aspect of your role? Sure.
So I can say personally, the most rewarding aspect has been a few of the major prosecutions over the last couple of years that I've had. There's been, I think, 3 murder cases now, 3 or 4 human trafficking cases, and a couple other large wiretap prosecutions that I've led. So on a personal level, that was the most rewarding. But I think on a more macro scale, the part that is the most rewarding to me is actually my involvement in some of our specialized therapeutic courts. So I'm the co-lead with another Crown at our office, Miss Elizabeth Brown, for both the mental health court and the drug treatment court. So our role for both of those courts is to come up with creative ways to get stakeholders and public members in society. So for the mental health court, for example, community, the CMHA and other organizations which have an active role to be partnered up with some of the accused so that we stop seeing the recidivism, that they can get the supports and access that they need. If homelessness is the problem, let's deal with those types of issues at their core or fundamental needs, because when they're addressed, we're less likely to see them again. So because we don't have those tools in our toolbox on our own, we bring those stakeholders in the special therapeutic courts, which have a more relaxed forum and judges that have training specific for those types of individuals and the needs that they have. That is, at a professional kind of go forward basis, the most rewarding part of my career for sure. That's awesome. I'm glad it's been so rewarding for you. And I think that was a lot. And there's a lot of different things that you're dealing with that I think a lot of aspiring lawyers would be interested in. So I think this provided them with a different and unique perspective. So I appreciate you sharing those thoughts, Jayme. Moving on to Paige, I want to talk about some of your, being a student at the University of Windsor, I want to talk about your role as president of the Biology Students Union. What does this consist of, and how has this experience really benefited you?
The Biology Students Union actually started this year. So back in April of 2020, me and a couple other student leaders were approached by the Science Society as an initiative to get this off the ground, because biology is one of, if not the largest department in the Faculty of Science, and we had no community to represent us. So it was this big gap that was lacking, and it's been incredible. My role as president is essentially just to oversee all of our operations. So that consists of planning social events for students to attend, obviously right now in a virtual format, as well as professional development events. So last semester we held an alumni panel night where we had different alum of the Biological Sciences program come and speak to students about what they do now in different industries. It was a great event. But yeah, how it's personally benefited me, I think I've really benefited from this community of people. So I've gotten to connect with so many students in the Biological Sciences program from years 1 to 4 and hear their experiences and talk to them, get to know them better, which has been great. And I've also really gotten to know faculty better, which I think is such an impactful thing, is to know your faculty members and to get to collaborate with them. Our new department head this year, Dr. Isabel Barrett-Ng, has been incredible. I've gotten to collaborate with her a lot in the past semester, and she is really open to hearing students' voices and getting to know what students want and what their needs are. And it's been great, and I'm really excited to see what happens in the future.
And for those science students that are watching, are there exciting events coming up that you've been able to pivot have virtually that you could give a quick shout out about?
Yeah, so we haven't really released any of our, social media marketing yet for these, but we're planning on having a research night this semester. So having different professors from the integrated biology department come and speak about their research so that students, hopefully, when we get to transition back in person, are able to volunteer in their labs in years 2, 3, 4. And we're also planning a little bit of a social night, which I guess I won't disclose fully because we haven't really released the details of it yet, but really exciting stuff to come this semester. So.
Excellent. Well, for those biology students that are interested, definitely check that out. And for more information, feel free to find I imagine there's a Facebook group or something on social media they can check out, or I imagine they could find you somehow, Paige.
Yeah, it's at UWinBSU on all social media platforms.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. So Mike, let's talk about students looking for work at the University of Windsor and being in your role as you were a part of ODET and ISC and other different departments. Now you're working for accessibility. For students that are looking to graduate and whether they want to be a faculty member or if they want to become a staff member at the University of Windsor, what advice can you share with those students to help get them there?
Well, that's a big question there, Lyndon. However, I have been pretty privileged to work with hundreds of students over the years. Probably the experience I would probably look at would be when I was director of student recruitment. We would hire, between 5 and 8. At that time, they were called liaison officers or student recruitment officers, and they would work each fall. And I could probably name off a number of them who now work as full-time staff members at the University of Windsor. So it was a great opportunity for, at that time, it was students who had finished their degree to get their feet wet and see whether the University of Windsor or another institution was an area that they would like to work, or whether, I always think that recruiting is it was a fantastic opportunity because of the travel, because of the people that you're meeting, improving your presentation skills and time management for sure when you're visiting 3 to 4 schools a day. But that was a really great opportunity. And I can think of 2 of those contract workers who actually work for other universities. So it's just one example of, getting your feet wet, testing the waters. And you can do that by volunteering, being part of clubs, working as a TA or a GA on campus. What you want to do is you want to take advantage of any of those opportunities that are out there. One of the challenges, of course, is we don't have a PA system to declare all of this information. But if you find something that you'd really like to investigate, go and investigate. Take that opportunity. I remember when I started at the university after year 1, I started working our Head Start orientation program. My undergraduate degree, I didn't plan on becoming director of student accessibility services, but I have to say it's been a pretty fantastic time at the institution. So you want to take advantage of the opportunities that are out there, test the waters and find something that's of interest to you. And one of the that I've told students or alum over the years when they're looking for working at an institution or at another job, it's not necessarily who you know. I kind of twist that around, and I've always said it's who knows you. You need to let people know your skills, your abilities, your interest. And when that's what you've done, say that you're a TA for a class. If a faculty member hears of a job somewhere, even off campus, if they know your abilities and you're the right one, they're going to make that reference for you.
Well, great advice, Mike. And I think you made some really great points talking about just starting out in some type of position. You mentioned TAing or working in an Ignite program or any type of student recruitment. You talked about being a part of Head Start. I think that's so important. And for any students, definitely take Mike's advice and get involved. And like he said, it's about who knows you. So I appreciate that, Mike, in sharing those insights with us.
Pleasure.
Going down to Jayme for the last question of the day, and before we conclude the show, what should students be doing to prepare for their careers as lawyers in university? What would you say, Jayme?
So thank you for that question. What I tell everyone is kind of building on exactly what Mike has said and Paige experience has shown, that you've got to just get a well-rounded exposure to whatever you can, whatever excites you, what you're passionate about, because when you get those experiences or exposures, you're going to excel in them. So if you match up things that you're doing well in and things that you're excited about, that will lead you to the types of experience and success that you want. There is no specific undergraduate degree that leads to law. I did a biology, an honors specialization in biology before I went to business school, and did a graduate degree in business school before I went to law school. So many of our peers had very unique and different stories for how they got to law school, and now their careers continue to be unique and varied, with practicing in a whole variety of different areas of law and new emerging areas of law that didn't exist when their parents may have gone to law school, like intellectual property or some of the unique things that are happening in finance and a lot of the different sectors. So what I tell everyone to do is first of all, find what you're excited about and work towards that. The second big thing, because Mike said it, so I'll just build briefly on it, is to, within the law school, when you are there, when you are a student of law, you try to get exposure to as many different actual things in practice, because the study of law is very different than the practice of law. So if there's a chance you have to go on the moot team, for example, myself and Brian Pilon for years coached the criminal trial moot, the RNUP moot, where we had some top UWindsor law students each year. In the last year, we had the 2 students who won the whole competition. So when you get exposure to things like mooting, that shows you what trial work is like and what conducting a trial is like. That shows whether that's what you want to do in your career or not. There's all kinds of clubs and experiences where you can go and have not only see what those lawyers do, but many of the top practitioners in the field will come out and they'll talk about what they're doing and what their career trajectory was like. So you can get the opportunity to not only meet these individuals, which is a wonderful first step, but figure out if that's what you're actually interested in. One of the things that's not talked about in law, but is well known, is that early in people's careers, there's a lot of movement. So it may be going from a large Bay Street firm to a smaller firm or mid-sized firm. It may be going in-house to a banking or insurance department for law. So those are experiences that the more people see, the more they do, the more they get exposed to, it's only going to help their career, and they will have more peers who they can kind of lean on and say, I'm interested in these things. Is there any opportunity in that area? Because almost everyone has movement early in their career. It's just the part of how law is structured. So that's one of the other things I would definitely say, that preparing for their career, which I guess can be expanded to almost any area of work. You're going to have to likely change jobs. You're going to likely maybe even change whole industries that you're working in. So just have portable and transferable skills so that you can take them with you to all your different experiences.
And speaking of experiences, real quick, if there could be one thing that you would tell law students to do while they're in law school, what would that be?
Sure. The real quick one would be, by the time they hit third year and they've got an idea of what they're applying for their articling position for, I would tell them to make sure that they have some actual experience in that area. So do a clerkship with a judge, do a 4-credit paper going in depth in that area that they're about to do. So that way, when you get to that firm as an articling student, you can hit the ground running. So you look like you have a little bit of shine compared to your peers. You've shown that you have a big interest in it so that you're ready to excel rather than having everything be so green.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that, Jayme. I appreciate that. And for those aspiring lawyers, I hope that helped. And to wrap up today's show, I do want to say a sincere thank you to Mike, Paige, Jayme for joining me and taking time out of your lunch to be on the show with us and inspire students. And to those that are watching, thanks for tuning in this week. I really appreciate it. Feel free to continue to watch the shows each week. And I encourage you to post your questions throughout the show. And our fantastic, excellent guests would be glad to answer them going forward. So thanks so much. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.